Hi there! Welcome to episode 3 of the Fast Bowling Workload Education Series. I'm Mel Tree, and I'm joined by Henry Woodward. Today, we're going to be talking about bowling workloads and how understanding and monitoring them effectively can significantly reduce your risk of getting injured. So, we're going to start this episode by referring back to one of the slides we finished on in episode 2. Please go and watch this if you haven't already. We finished this episode by saying that one of the ways in which we can stack the odds in our favor when it comes to injury is by understanding and monitoring our bowling workloads. We also spoke about how scientific evidence has shown that there are 3 factors that significantly increase the risk of a lumbar stress fracture. The first one being growing taller, second one being younger, and third, bowling faster. Unfortunately, we cannot modify any of these. We can't stop you from growing taller and being young, and we want to keep you bowling fast. However, we can keep addressing the 4 areas shown on the screen, which are the modifiable risk factors. As a player, it is your responsibility as well as ours to constantly be on top of these 4 areas to reduce your risk of injury. The 2 on the left we've spoken about already in previous episodes, and the one on the right we will talk about in a future episode. So today is all about monitoring workloads. So when it comes to bowling workloads, what can we modify? Well, there are 3 areas that we look at. 1, how intense you bowl, which also means what percentage of your maximum match intensity you're bowling at. This can also be associated with your run-up length, your ball speed, or by how much effort you feel you are putting in. Number 2 is how much you bowl. This is simply how many balls you bowl at a set intensity, aka bowling volume. Number 3, how often. This is the number of bowling sessions you do in a period of time, typically a week. These 3 points together can be simplified to intensity, volume, and frequency. Now, before we go into specifics around intensity, volume, and frequency, it's worth noting that these will be different for different times of the year. So in this episode, we will talk about pre-season, aka the preparation period, which is used as a gradual build-up leading into a season, so you are physically ready to cope with the loads. This chart shows us what we see when you input your bowling loads into AMS. This helps us and you track and plan your build-up and deload periods around training. The red line you see depicts your acute or average 1-week load, while the blue line depicts your chronic or average 4-week load. We want to avoid these 2 lines getting too far apart from each other. So in the same way that we want to avoid spikes in your acute bowling load, we also want to avoid drop-offs in your chronic load, which can both contribute to these red and blue lines getting too far apart. Essentially, we want to avoid boom periods where you bowl too much and bust periods where you bowl too little. Outlined in purple here, you can see what a typical preseason would look like with build-up and deload periods. Now Henry's going to take you through what preseason bowling may look like for you.
So as Mel said, we're going to go through the pre-season period, which is all about preparation and progressive overload. So if we go back to this slide again, we can quickly see that it is feasible to modify all 3 of these factors in pre-season: the intensity, the volume, and the frequency of bowling. Since there are usually no matches in pre-season, you can take full control of your workloads in training to allow a progressive build-up into the season. If you cast your minds back to episode 1, This is very much like how Milo of Croton progressed in size and strength through progressive overload. This is exactly what we want to achieve during pre-season, so you are ready to tolerate the demands of the season. Fortunately for you, we have designed 2 pre-season bowling frameworks outlining intensity, volume, and frequency of sessions. The program on the left over 14 weeks has been designed for players with previous bone stress injuries. The program on the right over a 12-week period has been designed for players with no previous bone stress injuries. Both programs are characterized by a 4-week loading period, followed by a 1-week deload across 3 different phases to allow bony remodeling and adaptation. All you need to do is choose the program that fits for you, then just stick to the prescribed intensity, volume, and frequency of bowling. We also recommend working back from when your first game of the season will be to fit in the full 12 or 14-week return to match bowling. Please also take note of the key at the bottom of the programs, which explains the finer detail and any unanswered questions. So in terms of actually tracking and inputting your workloads into the JER AMS app, firstly on your app, you need to go to SSM activity tab under assessments, and then from there, follow the questions on screen. Scroll across to bowling and input the number of balls that you bowled in training and any warm-up balls alongside that. Put in the RPE as well, along with any other activity you've done on that day. Do the same for playing, and then submit that into the athlete management system. So what do you do if you miss a day? So it's quite common to forget to put in workloads, even though we'd like you to do it on the day if possible. So again, you're going to go to the assessment tab and SSM activity, but this time go to the top right of the screen and press settings, and then scroll to the date that you need to go back and put workloads in for. Scroll through to the date that you need to put them in for, and then do exactly the same as was shown on the previous slide. So how do you view on the web version? So for this, you need to go onto the Cricket Australia Athlete Management System and put in your login details. That's the screen on the left, and then this will send you to the screen on the right, where you can go to the planning tab, which is shown with a cricket ball. And from there, you can have a look at the acute chronic workload graph, which will show your 1-week average and 4-week average, as Mel went through at the start of the presentation. If you want to modify the dates you're looking at, using the circled area, just put in the start date and the end date of the period that you'd like to have a look at. So take home points. Number 1, stack the odds in your favour by monitoring your bowling workloads. Build up your loads gradually by using the templates provided, and make sure you track your bowling loads on AMS using the app. In the next episode, we will go through how this looks during the in-season period and how to manage your bowling workloads in the lead up to a multi-day tournament.